What's up, good people? We are back for another live Q&A with BA on Thursdays, man. I so appreciate everybody that's been hanging out with us. As usual, bring all your questions, put them in the chat. I do got a couple things I want to cover with y'all today as we get into the questions. And one of those is I got the question of should Christians charge high prices for their products and services? Should Christians charge high prices for their products and services? And to me, although on surface, right, the question is as it's posed, but I think it's a deeper question beyond that question, right? Why, as believers, do we even think that there should be some delineation with how we charge and price ourselves in the marketplace? Like, where did this idea even come from? Where did this thought process come from that we don't place value on our products and services as believers when we have not more value to the marketplace as anybody else? And how or when did all of a sudden it become some type of crime for us as believers to do fundamental business, right? And what's fundamental business? Fundamental business is identifying a problem, solving it for somebody, and getting paid a fair and just compensation for solving that problem, right? For that problem. And it's, what's up, Ryan? It's disheartening to me that so many believers live in this cage of fear or doubt or um mainly fear and doubt about being able to go out and charge their worth and not be judged in result of it. Okay. Now, first of all, here's the thing. And we all been there, right? You just hang around on social media long enough, it is sure to happen to you, right? You promote yourself as a believer, you're a person of the faith, whatever the case may be. There will be people that will say to you, and you're supposed to be a Christian. How dare you charge that much? We all been there. Hang around on social media long enough, it's bound to happen to you. Why am I telling you this? I'm telling you this because understand that that's just not your client. Somebody with that logic is just not your client. Why? Because they got a scarcity mentality. They got a scarcity mentality. And so you don't have to waste your time being around or doing business with people like that. And do not let anything that they say define you and how you do your business. Okay. And speaking of definitions, let's first get very clear about like what do we even define as high prices? Right? When we trying to figure out, Ryan said I'm headed to lunch with my pops and son. That's good, bro. Enjoy. Um, like let's first define what is high prices. Okay. Because part of the reason why we get like plagued by certain ideas and thoughts and stuff that people be projecting is on us is that we don't even first define clearly what it is. Okay. So the question for those that just joined was, should Christians charge high prices for their products? Right. Let's first define what high prices are. So high prices, first understand this. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. So what does that mean? So people would often DM me for mentorship, right? Hey, do you offer mentorship? And I would tell them, yes, on a select basis, which is true. We don't just work with anybody. We go through a vetting process, an interview process, all the rest of it. And so their next question would be this. How much is it? Now watch this. Every time I get that question, here's one thing I know. Broke people ask how much something costs. Rich and wealthy people ask how much is it worth. Because for a rich and wealthy person, until they understand what it's worth, it all costs too much. But broke people and scarcity minded people want to know what the cost is to see if they can afford it. But here's the problem with that. Let's just say that I tell you that it's $1,000 for my mentorship, which is not, right? It's much more than that. But if it was, and because you think that you have $1,000 to spend, you would say, oh, great. Here's the problem. But what if the value in it is only worth $97? So just because it seemingly is cheap, when looking at how much money you have, if the value is only $97, although the cost is only 1,000, that's expensive. Y'all tell me in the chat, would that not be expensive? If you paid $1,000 for something and the value was $97, wouldn't that be expensive? So if that would be expensive, then that means that price is only an issue in the absence of value. Now, in that same vein, if you were investing $10,000 in something and that investment was going to pay you a $100,000 return, is that expensive? Is that a high price? No, of course it's not, because price is only an issue in the absence of value. If my value that I'm giving you will get you a $100,000 payoff, and the price to do that is $10,000, then that seems like a real win-win scenario, is it not? That's a win-win scenario. And so you look at somebody like Ryan, for instance, right? Ryan is in the construction business. I don't know all the nuance of his business, but I just know he's in the construction business. Even for him to go out and give bids to homeowners on doing things to enhance the quality of their home and or experience at their home. And by virtue of that, Ryan's efforts and improvements to their house then adds value to the equity position that they may have in their house. So even his efforts and his contribution to making their house better, adding an addition over here, finishing the basement down here, whatever, is adding value to their home. And so eventually, maybe not today, right? So let's just say they pay Ryan $30,000 to build an addition on their home or to remodel the kitchen or whatever. Today, that cost them $30,000. But 7 years from now of being in that house, their value is going to go up 150, 200,000. Is that a good deal? Of course it is. So why expect Ryan to come in and do that same work for $7,500 when you invest $30,000 with Ryan, and all of a sudden you're going to get a 4x, 5x, 6x return on investment over a 7-year period? So we have to first understand, if y'all catching what I'm throwing right now, the first thing we got to understand is, what is the payoff for the people who are in receipt of my product or my service? What is the payoff for the people that are in receipt of my product or my service? Right? That's the first question we got to ask ourselves. Why is that? Because that's how we start to determine what is the value in it for my end user. What we should not do, believer or nobody, is come to the marketplace, charge people prices for things that they don't get that plus some in value. That's the problem. I charge you $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 for something, and in result of it, you never make your money back. That's a bad deal, and nobody should be out there making those. But the problem with most believers that I see is we've got conned into this idea, probably because, whoever was leading you at church was probably a broke pastor that didn't really understand money or business themselves. And every time that you hear them talk about money is in a reference of charity and they begging for something. And so as a result of that, then you think that that's the way that we market ourselves in the marketplace, is that we're doing either getting handouts or we're begging for something or we're bartering for something, or that we're doing charity instead of doing business. How that's been working for you? How has it been working for you that you go above and beyond for your clients? They're making thousands, tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of dollars in result of your services or products. And then you charge them $300 for 90 days of coaching, $300 for 90 days of consulting, $1,500 for 6 months of services. Seriously, like, make that make sense. And then you over there disgruntled because you're not charging your worth. You're seeing them benefit in result of your efforts, and you the only one that's miserable and not making money. Is that fair? You tell me, is that fair to you, to your family, to your clients even? Like, is that fair for you to run your business like that? And then let's be honest. We do that long enough, we get this heart posture and we get this disposition with God, like you got a disdain with him. You like, I'm doing everything you want me to do. Are you? Are you? Are you? Let's look at scripture. So in the book of Genesis, Joseph had a dream. And in that dream, God revealed to him that there was going to be a famine. 7 years of plenty, 7 years of famine. And he told Joseph specifically during the 7 years of plenty what he should do, him and Pharaoh in Egypt, and how they should prepare for the 7 years of the famine, right? As a result of that, during the 7 years of famine, everybody had to come to Joseph to get goods. And so what did they pay Joseph with? By the way, God didn't prepare Joseph for the famine so that he can give the stuff away. He prepared Joseph for the famine so that he could sell the stuff to people. That's a clue. Well, how expensive did this get for some of these people? I'm glad you asked. So Joseph starts out selling the goods for money. But the famine goes on for 7 years, right? So people get into a position where they can't even afford to pay for the goods anymore. So then they started bartering and selling off their land. Just take everything. Take my livestock, take my land, take everything. We need to survive. We need nourishment. We need this, we need that. Joseph sells it to them in receipt of their land and possessions. Then they run out of land and possessions. And then what happened? They sell themselves into slavery during the time of the famine so that they can receive goods to survive from Joseph and Pharaoh. So what does that tell us? That tells us that while there's certain aspects of life that God wants us to be charitable in, if we call ourselves business owners, God expects for us to do business. How do I know? Because he gave Joseph a vision that there was going to be a famine, and that during the 7 years of plenty that he should store up for the 7 years of the famine, right? Some of y'all businesses are seasonal. That's a clue, right? If you live in the north and you do construction, for instance, you know that business is going to be better from spring to the end of fall. The wintertime, not so much, right? So that's seasonal. That's the equivalent of your 7 years of plenty and your 7 years of famine, right? So if your business is seasonal and is cyclical while seasonal, then when the getting is good, you should store up for that other time, right? Or maybe you need to pivot into another business model during that time. Like people who do taxes, for instance, you work 4 to 6 months out the year. Some, yeah, they want to take the other 4 to 6 months off, but others like, no, I still want to figure out different ways that I can be productive and earn income during this time. So you create other streams during that time, right? Of your seven years of famine. So it's a principle, right? It's not, when we look at the text and we look at these stories in the Bible, it's so applicable to today if you can look at it from that perspective. If you look at it like a history book, you're in trouble. But if you look at it like context and you're looking for parallels to show you how you could live your life and function in your business today, then you're going to be a lot better. Okay. So in saying that, you look at the framework. God gave Joseph the vision as he's given everybody else their vision for their business, right? Then he told them, here's what's going to happen. Things going to be really good for you. But why it's really good, I need you to plan because it's going to be really bad. And when it's really bad, there's going to be people that's going to need to come buy something from you. Not that I want you to give it away. I want you to sell it to these people. And he sold it to the extent of these people sold themselves into slavery. And so why as believers do we feel bad about selling our worth? Why do we feel bad about appropriately pricing our products and services when those that are in receipt of it, do you think that during the famine, that it was a great need for these people to be able to get nourishment and they couldn't get it anywhere else but there. Oh, of course it's expensive. It's supply and demand. God was teaching us economics in that text. Supply and demand. Supply is low, demand is high. Guess what? Inflation. The number goes up. It said nothing in there about Joseph felt bad, right? It said nothing that I feel so. No, I have the commodity. God put me in position to have it. You're in dire need of it. This is what it's going to cost you, unequivocally. So, as believers, I don't know where this bad doctrine come in at. I don't know why people had this heart posture. Well, some of it, again, it started from the top down. So, who's been coaching you as a business owner? Who's been pouring into you as a business owner? What ideologies have you taken on from mentors, consultants, and otherwise to tell you as to how you should run your business? Because if you're listening to broke people at the church and they the ones telling you how to run your business, you're probably going to be another broke person at the church. It just so happened you got a couple business cards and a website. It's the same thing though, right? So if we want to have a certain level of success, then we need to start talking to people that have garnered the level of success that we want, and then probably go after emulating those folks. Does that make sense? Now, here's another caveat to this whole thing about charging your work, okay, that I don't want y'all to miss. Pricing is marketing. Your pricing is marketing. Your pricing is marketing. Why? Because it's designed to repel the people you don't want and attract the ones that you do. So here's what happens. When you go out and you whore your business out at all these cheap prices, dude, what's in your budget today? Right? That's not a good offer. What's in your budget today is not a good offer, by the way. Right? Here's what it costs. And if for whatever reason they don't have the money or all of it, then you can talk to them about how you may be able to help them still figure out how to get the product or service while maintaining the integrity of what you built. You don't go around bargaining every day. That's not business, okay? That's a conversation for another video. But here's the thing. Your pricing is marketing. Your pricing is designed to attract the people that you don't want. I mean, to attract the people you do want and repel the ones that you don't. So you take, for instance, look at the Ritz-Carlton, for instance, right? I was just looking for after my daughter's getting married in a couple of weeks. And so my wife, like, we going on a honeymoon after they get married. I'm like, okay. So I didn't know if we were going to do a staycation or we were going to go somewhere. So I was just looking at like the Ritz-Carlton in Orlando, and that particular week, rooms like $1,400 a night. Now these like $250, $300 rooms. Okay. But let me ask you something. While many will get online and get offended because they saw that the room is $1,400, and actually we looked at the Diplomat down in Hollywood, and it was like $1,200 a night for this corner suite that we normally get, which is normally about a $400 or $500 room. So everything is expensive that particular weekend. But what's my point? Jack, what's up, bro? I'm getting to your question shortly, Jack. What's my point? My point is, do you think that the Ritz or the Diplomat cares about the fact that I noticed that their prices are double and even triple in some cases? Or that potentially will bother me? Of course they don't. You know why? Because for everybody that will be bothered at the fact that the rooms went up to $1,200 or to $1,000, they don't want any of those people there that week. That's why they priced it accordingly. So your pricing is marketing. Your pricing is designed to repel the people that you don't want and attract the ones that you do. So what happens is when, it's a race to the bottom and we're trying to be super accommodating. And so we like, I want to help as many people as I possibly can. And so I'm going to make my products and service cheap as I possibly can. And then, my man, I appreciate that, Jack. So think about that, right? You try to price your product, your services, your business as low as possible to help as many people as possible. But look at what happens in result of that though. You attract the people you don't want. The people that pay the least typically are the most headache. Any business owner on here can attest to that. The people that pay the least typically want the most, and they're the biggest headache. The people that pay the most amount of money, like you almost got to check on them. Hey, is everything okay? Oh yeah, I'm just doing what you told me to do. You know what I mean? I'm just enjoying whatever it is that you provided. But the people that pay the least expect the most. And so when you call yourself trying to be super accommodating, then you end up with this false humility because you're trying to still be humble and grateful when really you hate your business. You like, God, why did I even start this thing? I make no money. My margins are razor thin. I'm one mistake away from being poor. The people get on my last nerve. They don't pay me enough. Right? Like we gotta see that's the problem when we lead with false humility. When we do things that are rooted in the wrong things, we end up with bad things. When we do things that are rooted in the wrong things, we end up with bad things. What does that mean? If I go out here, start my business up, and I decide that I want to, I'm doing the Lord's work because I'm pricing everything so cheap. You're rooted in the wrong thing, so you end up with a bad thing. You're not doing the Lord's work because you priced it so cheap. Ask me how I know. I just told you. Joseph sold goods during the famine for money, for land and possessions when they ran out of money, and people sold themselves into slavery for what Joseph had to offer during, and that was a vision God gave him and direction that God gave him. So what does that tell you? That God wouldn't tell you to start a business that you barely making money and you're going to go out of business. That's what I'm telling you. You've been telling you that, and somebody else been telling you that, but that's not what he's telling you. Now, will there be a time and place that God may ask you to do something in the marketplace for free or close to free? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I don't believe that he would base your whole business model on that though. Right? We've got coaching programs that go up to $100,000, right? But we also have our believers in business community helping people live a level 10 life in their faith, fitness, finance, freedom, and family, biblical-based teaching in all core areas, as well as we do live coaching in there. And it's only $50 a month, right? But that's something that God specifically gave me instruction to do. You see what I'm saying? But my core business is not built off of that though. That's my marketplace ministry, and it's got a place for it. And I am trying to cast the net as wide as possible and make that particular offer as affordable as possible because there's a very distinct reason for that. But my whole business isn't built off of that. Is any of this making sense? Right? Because I want you guys to get to a place where you can stop feeling guilty about charging what you should be charging, like charging your worth. And breaking down all of these mental barriers about like what's expensive. Like what's expensive is when somebody pay you for something and it's not worth it. That's expensive. That doesn't have a dollar amount. It's all about a value. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Price is only an issue in the absence of value. Okay. So we good? We ready to go charge our worth? Is everybody good and ready to go charge their worth? Let me know in the chat. Very good. Very good. So my man Jack Stewart asked the question of what's the balance between working for something you feel is aligned with God versus something that'll make you a lot more money, something that'll make you a lot more money with when you have debt looming over your head. All right, I'm gonna say that cleaner this time. So Jack Stewart asks, what's the balance between working for something you feel is aligned with God versus something that you'll make a lot more money with when you have debt looming over your head? That's a phenomenal question. Phenomenal question. Okay. Jack said, charge people get money. He crazy. Ryan said, Oh, the reason I stopped you, Val. Okay, Val said crystal clear. Okay, cool, cool. So here's the thing. I love the question, Jack. By the way, right? I'm gonna take a page out of Dave Ramsey book for just a second. Okay. So for those of you that know Dave, right? Dave is the loudest voice out there about get out of debt, right? Get debt free. And to use his vernacular, he says everybody need to use gazelle-like intensity when doing so, right? So Jack is asking basically, like, how do I balance between doing something that I feel fulfilled and meaningful and called to versus doing something to make a check because I got to get this debt from off my back, right? We all have been there. Okay, I certainly have. I ain't gonna speak for y'all. I haven't been there. I got been there, done that, got the trophy. I don't know how many times. Okay. And so the reality is this, Jack. I got this adage that I live by that we got to do what we got to do to make a living while we're also building a fortune, right? So you do what you got to do to make a living while you're building a fortune. And so I see that both and scenario in your current situation, right? The thing is, you super intense on the thing that's paying you most now, but then in any amount of spare time that you have, right? You working on the thing that's gonna pay you later. So you super intense on the thing that pay you now while you working on the thing that's gonna pay you later. And that's the problem where we oftentimes go wrong, Jack. And that's why I'm glad you brought the question up. We get so fixated and focused on what we're doing now that we forget about later. And that's how corporate America rock you to sleep for 30, 40 years and give you a wooden plaque and a fake gold watch on the way out. That's what happened. People go there to forget about the fact that they got dreams, aspirations, goals, and things that would better make them fulfilled because they get stimulated by that instant gratification of that paycheck every 2 weeks and forget that there's more purpose to their life than punching the clock. So that would be my recommendation, Jack. I think the fact that you consciously aware that the thing that's feeding you monetarily is not feeding you internally is like the biggest win of this whole conversation because it starts there. But then now it's a function of, and I just so we had this challenge last week, Purpose to Profits challenge, right? Where we taught people how to monetize their messages, how to set their businesses up in such a way that not only could make them, make them feel fulfilled in the process, but to actually make them a lot of money in the process too, right? We showed them our framework of how we made even six figures in a day, let alone six figures in a month and multiple six figures, seven figures in a year. And so it's like crazy when you get into a room with people that are sold out for God, right? I'm talking about y'all know me. I'm the biggest one on the campaign trail, but I'm also a capitalist and not ashamed by that at all. I actually feel responsible based on the gifting and the calling God given me to go out and make as much money as I possibly can, right? And so, um, but in that, I teach this framework. I call it my here there framework, right? I learned this from a consultant that I paid about 7 years ago when I was still in corporate America. And he basically gave me this framework of how whatever you're doing in life, if you use this framework, it will help you to start building what you want to do in life, right? And so the biggest two key elements to it, okay, one is to have non-negotiable time every single day that you set aside for building the future thing. So for me, from 1 to 3 p.m. since probably the start of COVID, 1 to 3 p.m. is my time, right? That's my office hours. That's the time that I got delegated um, to build whatever it is that I want to build. So, initially it was transitioning out of corporate. Then after that, it was like, okay, I'm getting out of single family and fix and flipping wholesale deals. I'm gonna pivot and start buying apartments. Well, I had to go get some education, mentorship, and apartments before I started buying apartments. So I used that time to build that, right? Then I bought a cigar company. Me and my partner own a cigar company in the Dominican Republic. Had to learn about that, use that time for that. Education bit, like the list goes on. It don't matter what it is. But the first thing is, right, the first principle to it is that you got to have non-negotiable time. So for some of y'all, maybe you ain't got 2 hours a day, but I promise you, you got 30 minutes. You got 30 minutes non-negotiable. You got 30 minutes before you go to work. You got 30 minutes that you could pull away from Netflix or the football game, or you got a non-negotiable 30 minutes that you can put into educating yourself and starting to prepare for whatever it is that you believe God prepared for you. Right? You got that. So that's the first thing. Why that's so important is because of the second principle in the whole thing. It's I don't know if you ever heard of Darren Hardy, The Compound Effect. Great book. You should get it. But it talks about, most of the time we talk about the compound effect of money, right? Which is why we love the stock market. But we're talking about the compound effect of activity and time. And so if you consistently can allocate 30 minutes a day, an hour a day, what you focus on expands, right? So if you do that day in and day out, it is impossible for that thing not to grow into something significant. And so that's how, regardless of what you're doing today, you have to start investing time into what you want to do tomorrow. Otherwise, you just stay stuck on what you're doing today. And most people, unfortunately, until something catastrophic happens where they lose their job, right? It takes for some big event. So they never transition well. It's like they overstay, and because they never had the foresight to start sowing seed into their future, God got to do something so extreme in their present to get their attention to then move them into the next phase. But by that time, they're like, man, lost my job, I'm fooling around with unemployment, my marriage on the right. It's drastic, it's dramatic. It's because we don't preemptively plan well. When we get that unction of it's something else we're supposed to be doing, we think we ain't supposed to start doing that until we stop doing this. It's like, you can do it that way, or you could just start creating margin in your life to start sowing seed into the future thing. Does that help, Jack? Does that help give you some clarity and context to your question? I thought it was a phenomenal question, personally. Right? But I love the way that y'all are thinking about this kind of stuff. There is a world that exists that you can make all the money you desire to make and feel like extremely fulfilled in the process of doing so. Like, we did a 5-day challenge last week with business owners, coaches, consultants, freelancers. I can't, it'd be illegal for me to call it work. And not only was it work, but it was also very profitable. But the stories and the people and the transformation that took place in and of itself is like, I can't explain it, honestly. It's nothing like operating in your gifts, fulfilling your purpose, part of your purpose, and helping people come to that level of awareness for themselves and for their families and for their businesses, and know that you made some type of impact that could forever change the trajectory of their life. It just don't get no better than that. It just don't. You know what I mean? And I'm forever grateful for it. But all of us have something like that in us, though. That's my point. Maybe yours is not coaching, but something that you do extremely well can have everlasting impact on other people if you share it. All of you. All y'all brilliant at something. I was just talking to a guy last night. He's probably late 50s, early 60s. He's been in the audiovisual space for 30 years. Everything from Saturday Night Live to Monday Night Football. Like, he's done it all behind the lens. 30 years. And now he's at a place where he's like, the thrill is gone. He did all the boxing he could do, like, all the big fights. He recorded those. And he's grateful for all the experiences, but now he's ready to dump that experience into another generation. Right? Show them how to monetize their gifts and their interests and their purpose. And that's what it's about, is everybody getting to that level at some point. I know Ryan in the construction business, he got to be doing it every day. That's a lost art. Nobody wants to be a plumber, electrician. You know what I mean? Like, back in the day, that was good money, being in a factory or learning how a skilled trade like that. Now everybody want to just go be rich influencers on social media. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. but we still need houses, and we need electricians, and we need plumbers, and we need roofers, and we need window installers, and we need framers. Like, we need all these things. Although they starting to manufacture stuff with AI and anyway, I digress. But the point is, Jack said, yes, I downloaded the book also. Phenomenal. Yeah, and there's also, it's a in addition to the book, The Compound Effect, Jack, there's a Darren Hardy training. I think it's called Secrets to Success. I think it's called Secrets to Success. Yeah, if you put in Darren Hardy on YouTube, I think it's called Secrets to Success. It'll pop up though. It's like a 2 or 3 hour training. Phenomenal training about the same things we're talking about. Jack Stewart says, I'm not 100% sure. I feel like my calling is rubbing after fix and flip business and the handyman services, along with holding my real estate license and making a self place for other Christians in. Solid. But here's the thing, right? Everything you just mentioned. So if you're in a fix and flip business, then you preparing homes to impact the quality of lives of those who buy them, right? If you're in a handyman service, you're coming over at some of the most disturbing situations that people could be in, right? My toilet's backed up, or this pipe burst and there's water running everywhere, right? Like these are times where people are in dire straits and they need you, right? In a handyman service. Or maybe they want to watch television, but they don't know how to put the TV on the wall. Like, I don't know what scope of work that you'd be doing, but all of it involves helping people, serving people, right? Having your real estate license, taking, I remember when my wife and I moved to Florida from Michigan, we came down here. Joyce Sundar, shout out to Joyce Caldwell Banker. Like, this lady was an angel. We come down, we take 2-3 trips down here over the course of the year before we decide to move. And the way that Joyce like served us, you know what I mean? Pick us up from the hotel. Well, actually, I'll take that back. We would meet her in the parking lot at Caldwell. She'd stuff us in her truck and just drive us around for hours all day, different neighborhoods, an hour away from each. Like, just amazing service. Take us out to eat, sup with us, you know what I mean? Get to know our family. And like, she took really good care of us for 9 months before we ever even made a purchase. And what's interesting about that is by the time we ended up, we went under contract and we got back, I just didn't feel right about it. And so the EMD, it went hard, but I told my wife, I'm like, man, we shouldn't buy that house. And so, it wasn't a popular decision at the house, let's just say that. But we ended up walking away from it. Well, we did the smart thing. When we moved down, we ended up renting a place. But then Joyce could have been all nasty about it. Like, the 9 months of her showing us houses went in vain, considering we decided to come down and rent for 14 months. But what happened was we ended up deciding to build a house right after we got done renting. And when we did, instead of us letting the new home builder get the deal, we called Joyce, right? What's my point? My point is, when you take care of people, people will take care of you. So, Jack, there's a ton of fix and flippers out there. There's a ton of, handyman businesses out there. It's a ton of real estate agents. But what separates them? That's the piece where we, as believers, if we take our calling seriously, we can impact and invade any area that we walk into. They should be able to see our light, his light shining through us by the way that we serve them, right? Matthew 6:33 all over again. So, yeah, the point that I'm making, and I'm glad that you brought that up, Jack, is that we can make an impact anywhere we go. It's all about how we serve whatever our assignment is. How do we treat the people we work with? Right? How do we treat the people we come in contact with? How do we treat the least of these when we encounter them? Like, all those things is how we make a difference. Was this helpful for you guys today? I thought, by the way, keep the questions in the comments coming. Like, we take that serious. As you see, this week we responded to Jack from a comment that he made on the page, as well as the previous week there was another gentleman that, you know, we answered. Because at the end of the day, I'm doing this for y'all, right? So if you guys got specific questions, concerns, comments, like, let's talk about it. You know, let's talk about it. As soon as I figure out how to get somebody else on split screen with me, like, we working through all the technical stuff. You know, you got to spoon feed me on this technical stuff, but we're gonna do it, right? We here, we hanging out. Next week, I'm gonna be in Vegas at ClickFunnels, right? I'm getting an award at ClickFunnels at Funnel Hacking Live, and then also going to my man Mike Zuber event where I'll be speaking on a panel there. So I'm gonna have a good week in Vegas next week. So I say all that to say, I don't know what Thursday at 2 o'clock looks like yet in Vegas, right? But I'll keep you all abreast one way or another. We'll figure it out. If it's not a live, it'll be a pre-recorded that we'll drop, and then we'll get back to the live the following week. Jack said I also own rentals as well, so I'm hoping to be financially independent in a few years. Certainly, bro. Certainly. You're on your way, man. You're on your way. You keep up the good work, Jack. It sounds like, you know, you're taking a really aggressive approach to chipping away at that debt. And so you keep going on that, Jack. You're gonna be in great position, man, for sure. For sure. Or at see you there. Super excited. Likewise, man. I can't wait. I can't wait. Last year was super fun, man. I had a ball with you guys, so I look forward to that again this year as well. And so yeah, I'll be out there all next week, like Tuesday to Monday, I think it is. I don't know. My wife booked the flights. I gotta go check that out. But yeah, did anybody have any last questions though before we wrap for today? Any final questions, thoughts before we wrap for today? All good? Sweet. Well, I'll see y'all in a week, one way or another. And like I said, even if we don't get time to do it live next week, we'll drop a pre-recorded same time on Thursday next week, and then we'll pick up with the live thereafter. But if we can make it happen, I'll be here. So make sure y'all leave your comments, your questions, and what's your thoughts overall on the topic. Like, maybe some of you out there that are Christian business owners that's been undercharging for your services, did this help give you some clarity and confidence to go out and change the way that you've been approaching this concept? All right. I love to know. Until next time, I'll see you later.